And as we bring our program to an end for this week, it's time to talk about ravens. Now, ravens might not seem like something we would talk about on this show, but I think this is interesting. A new study in Sweden has shown that ravens, while having tiny brains, are in fact as clever as chimpanzees, despite the tiniest of their brains. It suggests that rather than the size of the brain, it's the neuronal density and the structure of the bird's brains that play an important role in their intelligence. This in a report from Lund University in Sweden. One of the researchers says absolute brain size is not the whole story. We found that corvid birds performed as well as great apes despite having much smaller brains. Now, it's difficult to test intelligence, so we can't be sure we know everything about the raven story. But the part of it that really struck me in watching the video of this story that accompanies this story, and in reading the research itself, is that what they did was they had these transparent tubes, and they tried to see whether birds learned from experience. You couldn't go right at the food; you had to go around inside it. They did. They learned very quickly, and then they came to this conclusion about great apes, or whatever. But what struck me about this story, and what I thought was important about it, aside from the fact that it's interesting, inherently interesting to me, is that the researchers determined or felt that each of these ravens had an individual personality, that they got to know them, they got to react to their, making eye contact with them. It reminded me a little bit of, the world was shocked. It's accepted now, but 30, 40 years ago when Jane Goodall said that the chimps she worked with had personalities and she gave them names and so on, people thought, well, no, that can't be. We kind of expect that large primates are like us in many ways. But what these guys are saying is, no, each raven had a personality, each raven had a sort of sensibility, what you or I might consider a consciousness to it. Now, when you think about it, the implications of this are profound, especially for those of us who are not vegans or vegetarians. I was a vegan for a couple of years, but I'm not anymore. And if you think about it, what this may be saying to us is that there are animal intelligences that, are not equal to our own in terms of IQ tests and so on, seem to be evidence of something like personhood. We've talked about personhood before on this show, but if these ravens, jackdaws, and crows are really capable of learning, perceiving, and at least in the experience of these scientists, showing personality, that's something to reflect on. And those are our thoughts to close the week. I am RJ Eskow, and this is The Zero Hour.